Bueno, buenos días a todos. Vamos a empezar con retraso porque al parecer la sesión anterior ha tenido mucho retraso. I'll switch in English, sorry. So we'll start. This session will last 30 minutes. So the panel that is today here will deal about basically the framework program of research of the European Union, and will participate first of all Rosa Boleo, who is at my right. She's the Vice Rector for Research and Innovation. She's a veterinary by training. Then we have Carmen Laplaza, who is the main speaker. She's head of unit at the Directorate of Health Research, and she deals with health innovation and ecosystems. And myself, I am Octavio Quintana. I am director of a research foundation called PRIMA, and before I was director of health research also at the European Commission. And well, let's just to place the context, the framework, and the framework program of research of the European Union is the biggest one in the world as a multinational program, research and innovation program. Currently, for the period 21-27, has a budget of 100 billion euros, meaning more than roughly 15 billion per year, of which 8 billion are in the hands of health research, well, the cluster of health. And this is very important, and as you understand, because for Europe it represents roughly 10% of all the research effort in Europe, and those are very welcome funds because in fact they are funds that are not institutional and therefore can be used by all research institutions, by all researchers on top of what there is institutional research. Of course, there are competitive funds, and we are now entering into a new period. There is a new commission, and the first question, in fact, for Carmen is, since we're in a new commission, the new commission has its own plans. We are in a geopolitical situation in the world very challenging, to say the least, and I'd like to ask her, and there have been several reports to help the new commission to set the scene, and one of these reports, which is the ATO report, asks for the next framework program to have a budget of 220 billion euros, which is more than double what we currently have. I think this is very important for Europe, but I think that this reflection will be given by Carmen. So Carmen, please, what do you think that with this new commission and in this new period, and especially looking at Framework Program 10, which will start in 28, what are the plans of this new commission?
Thanks a lot, Octavi. And first of all, good morning to everybody, and million of thanks for having invited the European Commission to participate in this really wonderful conference. I have been very impressed by the sessions that have been organized. And I must say that personally, I'm very moved to be in this amazing building where my father used to study in the 50s. So thanks a lot already for allowing me to discover this building.
Let me introduce Carmen. Carmen is coming from Huesca. Huesca is one of the provinces of Aragon where we are today. Is that the way? Because for her, I think it's very nice to be here with us. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you. Yes, so indeed, very exciting times. We are living in Brussels now. We have a new European Parliament, new European Commission, new political guidelines, and it's very easy to resume what will be the priorities in the next 5 years. 3 words. First, competitiveness. Second, resilience. And third, security. And the main reason for these priorities to be those is that Europe cannot afford to lose its competitive edge towards other regions of the world or to leave any kind of a strategic vulnerability exposed. So that's why we are requested to invest massively in competitiveness. But this does not mean that we are going to forget climate commitments. I think that sustainable competitiveness will be the critical word to retain. And why? Because we have committed to become the first climate neutral continent by 2050. So there are novelties, this very much increased focus on competitiveness, but also continuity about our commitment to keep green targets, but also our values. And that's what differentiates ourselves from other regions of the world. We need to be proud about that. So if we look more in particular to research and innovation, I think that what Octavi said about what the ATOR group was calling for a very much increase in the budget for research and innovation that we hope the member states will agree with, this is due to the fact that if we want to push competitiveness, research and innovation is critical. And therefore, research and innovation will be in the heart of the economy. It's those words that appear in the political guidelines. So I think that we can congratulate us at least about that, and let's hope that member states will agree and we will receive the necessary budget so that you can really thrive in your work. If we look a little bit more to health, just very briefly, we are requested to continue the European Health Union to invest in diversifying supply chains, critical medicines. I'm sure you have heard the big problem for Europe, but also from other parts of the world. We really need to sort out the issue of availability of drugs. We also have to invest in transforming healthcare systems, in making them more resilient, and then much more focus in prevention and in non-communicable diseases. You know how much we talked about cancer in the previous commission. This will continue, but now we are extending the focus to the non-communicable diseases. So maybe if you want me to develop a little bit about why these priorities, I think we need to look at these reports. You already mentioned the ATOR report. ATOR and his group, they were requested to reflect about the future of the framework program. But also there were other reports. I'm sure you have heard about the Draghi report. Draghi was commissioned to do a report on the future of the European competitiveness. And this report has been taken so much seriously by the Commission that only 2 days ago, the Commission adopted what is called the Competitiveness Compass, which is a roadmap, a plan, in order to make into action, to put into action the 3 transformations that Draghi is asking Europe to do if Europe wants to remain at the front of the innovation. These transformations are the first one, to close the innovation gap, find new growth engines. We can think here, for example, at the life science strategy. Draghi was asking for putting more focus in extracting the most of the life science sector. Advanced materials, many different sectors will be pushed to become more competitive. Second transformation, a joint decarbonization and competitiveness plan. So we need to keep competitive while decarbonizing. And Draghi is asking that proposing that the only possibility to do so is by decreasing energy prices. So there will be a lot about clean tech in order to facilitate this double plan, competitiveness and decarbonization. And the third is to increase security and reduce dependencies. The third report, to end this part of is the LETA report. And LETA was requested to think about the future of the European single market. And I wanted to mention this report because it's very important for you as researchers, because he's introducing the concept of the fifth freedom, the freedom for research to circulate, but not only for researchers, also for the scientific knowledge and the capacities. Extremely important, and concepts like research and innovation union are emerging, and very much also we are called to invest in innovation procurement. And it's quite particular to come to Spain to talk about innovation procurement because you are the leader on the field. It's incredible what you have done, and in health in particular, it's critical because if we take into account that more than 70% of the public spending in health, of the average spending in health is public, if we want innovation in healthcare to be uptaken, it needs to go through the public purse. So we really need to invest in a demand-driven innovation and answer to the problems that are there. And I think...
I think this is a very important point, so that we go from supply-driven research to demand-driven research. Demand-driven research typically is defense, is demand-driven research, but also in health, we need to foster demand-driven research. And I think that this shift in the European Commission will be essential. That is, questions that need to be answered, not just technologies or procedures or identifying this or that sector, but rather trying to answer questions and approaching these questions from any point of view. So, Carmen, could you develop a little bit on this, please?
Yes, actually, now that everything will be tainted of competitiveness, I think also demand-driven innovation is very important in that regard. And I can only talk about our experience in the European Commission of the pre-commercial procurements that we have funded, that in principle we were doing so in order to help health procurers to funding the research and development that they needed. So, you know, pre-commercial procurement funds research and development to obtain products that are not yet into the market. So we are saying, okay, health procurers, what are your needs? Tell us, we will fund the research and development needed so that you can sort out those needs. Okay, so we have funded a lot of pre-commercial procurements in the last 10 years, and our experience is that ultimately who has been very benefited of this is the suppliers who participated in the tenders that were subsequently launched by the procurers. So they are launched in 3 phases. So first, the health procurers from several European countries are saying we need to find solutions, for example, for early warning systems for, I don't know, the air, indoor conditions, whatever I am inventing. They come out with a call for research and development on the field. A few providers say we can propose a prototype, and then there are subsequent phases for development and testing. And we have seen that providers participating in those phases, most of them commercialize their solution. And why is that? Because this continuous exchange between suppliers and demands gives suppliers an incredible competitive advantage. They know what their future client needs. So this is the beauty of this instrument. So you can be really the leaders in teaching others how to do it, because this kind of research will be much more put forward in the next framework program.
Thank you, Carmen. Well, I think at least you say in Spain we are, very good, but also the University of Zaragoza has quite a lot research institutes. The one that is organizing this meeting is the Health Institute in Aragon, you know. They do this kind of research, of course, and innovation. But also the rest of the institutes, they are engineers, they are physics, or, you know, and they do quite a lot of innovation in health, you know. Most of the institutes from the University of Zaragoza, they are working on that, health and innovation. So I hope we will push to follow this way, of course. Well, I want also to ask you, already you say something about, but how do you think the new commission will influence the future of the healthcare? And also, how will be the way for this 2024 future of healthcare that we are discussing here in this meeting these days? What do you think?
Yes, so, okay, 2044, wow, 20 years ahead, what kind of healthcare do we want? I think that in 2044, we hope that the healthcare systems will have managed to do this necessary transformation in order to accommodate for the changing of the demographic change, right? We heard yesterday how much it is worrying to see that we are going to have a workforce shortage and that there is going to be an increase in the percentage of non-communicable diseases. And research innovation needs to find answers for that. We have the key in order to facilitate this transformation of the healthcare systems from many different dimensions. Non-communicable diseases, increasing of the aging population means a lot of polypharmacy issues. We absolutely need integrated care, and we don't have it today. We need to have all this, the care center into the person and all the different specialities treating a person to really know what each other is doing to avoid complications. So we hope that that is facilitated by developments from the digital and innovation perspective, and that through our efforts, through collaborative efforts with member states, we will manage to get there. We also need, in 2044, I hope that the healthcare system will have managed to end with one of the biggest problems that it has, which is the enormous waste, and I'm not talking only about waste from the sustainability environmental perspective. I'm talking about waste in the use of resources. 20 to 25% of the resources used by healthcare are inappropriate, are directly to the trash bin. This is not acceptable. Can you imagine if it was your money? If you would know that 20 or 25% of the money you spend every month goes to the trash bin, would you accept that? No. So this is happening today. These are estimations of the OECD, by the way. And this is not only that the money is just not used in other things that are absolutely needed, is that in some occasions it's creating problems. We are providing treatments to people that potentially can kill them because of adverse drug reactions. We really need to advance, and personalized medicine can be the key for one of the keys in order to end with the worrying increase of adverse drug reactions. Let's hope in 2044 all expenditure will be creating value. Another problem, AMR. I will not extend myself. I hope in 2044 we will have the necessary vaccines and the necessary diagnostic tools in order to have at least really diminish the enormous risk we have ahead. And we could mention many things, but I think one that we cannot avoid is that in 2044 we will have managed to adapt to climate change, because we have to mitigate emissions, and many opportunities are also in the healthcare sector, which is the fifth biggest responsible of carbon-free emissions. It's more than logistics and aviation together. This is not, this is more and more said nowadays, but it has never been the kind of privileged sector to be tackled. It will need to be tackled, and even if we mitigate everything, the damages are there already, and we will need to adapt. And the healthcare sector will need to be ready in order to, adapt to all the extreme weather events, floods, and you name it. So I think that in 2044 we will manage to get there. But how? Of course, research and innovation in the center, but a research and innovation that is more looking also at implementation. So what are the needs? being developed together with those that, with the end user, also with very, very close interaction with regulators. In our contact with regulators, we often hear that actually an innovation has come to their desk, that actually they realize that it was done not following the regulatory requirements from the beginning, so they cannot approve. What I want to say is that we need a very efficient and working ecosystem where all the actors are collaborating. Researchers, innovators, healthcare professionals, regulators, and the industry.
Yes, something that bothers a lot, I think, all researchers, is that the EU program, like all the public systems, funding programs, have a lot of admin activities. So quite a substantial part of the researcher time is used to admin activities such as invoices, timesheets, and so on. So it would be very good, I think, for the whole system, but especially for researchers, that we go to a system by which we are allocating funds based on lump sum. That is, we agree with the budget, we pay you according to the deliverables, but we couldn't care less whether you use this for this machine with that's so many people, or you use them with dancers in Brazil. We don't care, provided that you really get the deliverables as you agreed. Do you think that the Commission will go into this direction? Because I think it would be a radical change in the way research is done, and especially control in Europe.
Yes, indeed. I think that that's one of the things that we are requested to go further with, simplification. So I assume that the use of lump sums will be one of the things that will be increased in the coming years. We receive different signals from the use of lump sums. Some are pro lump sums, so there are maybe more reticence, but with no doubt the simplification will be one of the key evolutions in the coming years. And if we look at what are the evolutions that we are requested apart from simplification, are also to invest more on the disruptive innovation. So for example, Aitor was calling for moving more or allocating more funds to this kind of ARPA-AIDS funding that is done in the US, for example, where they are working in kind of milestones. No? If you get to this milestone, we continue funding. If you don't get there, we stop. Which are things that in the reflection now of the European Commission. No? As you see, there is very much into translation and going further to the tech transfer. Europe is a scientific powerhouse, but we are lagging behind in the translation of this brilliant, scientific expertise into products that ultimately benefit the economy as well. So we hope that we will be able to do a kind of program that facilitates your life, that simplification will translate in simplification for the applicants, because sometimes when we hear about simplification, finally we get more complexity. This has happened in the past, so let's hope this time it will be the good simplification, but there will be, I think that it will be important that we cover the full life cycle of research and innovation, and that we manage to also facilitate your life, because we receive a lot of times this criticism of your programs are really complicated for us to take part of, in particular the collaborative research programs. So,
Okay. You mentioned the Draghi report before, which contains an important chapter of pharma. So in this chapter, Draghi provides quite a lot of importance of the clinical research. Any thoughts about that?
Yes, indeed, clinical trials, for example, clinical research is really now in the in the heads, in the discussions, in the reflections of all my colleagues which are currently working on the life science strategy, because indeed we are really having a very complicated moment in Europe as regards clinical trials. Some things are related to a very complicated regulation, and this Draghi has really put it very clear. So we hope that this Commission will manage to facilitate the regulatory landscape. At the same time, there are also things that we can do from a research and innovation perspective, and this is critical. We are 27 countries, but we are very attractive. We should be very attractive for the pharma industry that wants to come to do clinical trials in Europe, and we are less and less. Why we should be very attractive, and we are, because we have a fantastic system. The healthcare system in Europe is fantastic. Yesterday it was very much said how much we have so much data from, not just data of today, from, many, many years. This is very, very important for clinical research. We have networks, amazing clinical trial networks that we have funded, for example, in the context of our collaboration with the pharmaceutical industry in the context of the Innovative Medicine Initiative. I can point at a project called C4C, Connect for Children, that is setting a clinical trial network that allows for, if you want to do a clinical trial on pediatric population, they can tell you exactly where, in which centers, and everything is ready so that you can start as soon as possible. At the same time, doing clinical trials in Europe is extremely important for our patients, because many times clinical trials is hope. If you can access a clinical trials when you have a very complex and dangerous disease like some cancers, clinical trials can be a hope. And not having them in Europe, obviously, is very painful for patients. At the same time, for the industry, if you do a clinical trial in Europe, you are going to have access afterwards to a lot of population, because in the context of health technology assessment, they look a lot about the representativeness of the population on which the trial was done. So you have a blockbuster and you can prove that the clinical trial was partially done in Europe, automatically you have access to a lot of patients because of our universal health coverage. So this is all the reasons why they should keep coming. But afterwards, the problem as well is that organizing multinational clinical trials in Europe is extremely complicated. Right. And each country is too small. Yeah. Let's take the COVID example. Suddenly we were able to, do many things in a coordinated, fast way, fast-track approvals, and of course we are not in crisis, but I think we should copy some of these things, because we cannot afford not seeing clinical trials decrease in Europe. And clinical trials is just the part of it, because we also have the preclinical research. And then I think that thanks to research and innovation development, thanks to artificial intelligence, new approach methodologies, we can also do a lot in order to push for preclinical models, to make the whole research pathway more efficient. I was listening the other day that the percentage of success of a clinical trial is less than 10%. Yeah. Can you imagine? Even in the third phase, so it's
less than 10%.
Yeah, and clinical trials are very, very expensive, so we cannot rely on public funds to do clinical trials. The pharma need to be involved in funding most of it. But we need agreements to work together in public-private partnerships to fund these clinical trials. And as the Innovative Medicines Initiative, that now is called differently, but
the Innovative Health Initiative.
Innovative Health Initiative, that's more or less the same. Just because we need to finish in 5 minutes, yes, I'd like to ask you, just to summarize, so you said, first of all, we expect a substantial increase of funds. We hopefully doubling the current amount, so going from 100 billion to 200 billion. The second thing is trying to foster demand-driven research, which will be excellent, trying to avoid fragmentation, that is, although healthcare belongs to the member states, that there are common rules and that this research can be done together, which will be very good. Simplification with lump sum strategies would be very good. And then trying as well to what we were mentioning of clinical trials, but really funded by the private sector, but with the support of, especially in what research can help to foster clinical trials, that is to avoid to have potential biomarkers that can replace clinical studies, replaced by biomarkers which will be much cheaper and easy to do. Is anything more than you would like to say as finished? Well, and also that the calls are not around technologies, but around problems, and that the problems can be solved by any strategy trying to cope with this, solving the problem.
You have summarized it very well. Not much to add. Maybe just to talk about the importance of disruptive innovation, support disruptive innovation, encourage taking the risk. This is something that in Europe we are not maybe doing sufficiently. Encourage to have more spin-offs and startups coming from universities. This is something where we also need to boost more efforts, very important for the future of the competitiveness. And the risk medicines development, and this is very much related to the clinical trials. I'm wondering how many drugs have not seen the day just because they were not tested in the right populations. So let's invest in personalized medicine also from the perspective of clinical trials. Let's stratify, let's go ahead in that. And let me just close by saying that we need the member states to make all that a reality. First of all, to have a very big budget, because if member states, at the end of the day, this is in the hands of the Council. So, and if we want really to develop a very strong tissue of clinical research in Europe, we also need the member states. If we want to make a reality multinational clinical trials, we need the member states. So that could be my last call, collaboration also with national.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are running late. In fact, we started almost 25 minutes late, so apologies for the next session. Thank you very much for...
Yeah, let me say that thank you very much, Carmen. This is great, the session, but especially because there are many people around that have now the contact with you in the European Commission, you know, to develop these health projects properly. I hope you will help the University of Zaragoza. We have the nice vaccine, the TBC vaccine, and many other projects running now. Thank you very much.